All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today, this is a really cool episode today because, well, first of all, Susan, welcome. And
Thank you.
I am so honored to have you here because Susan Berkley and I, we go back. I mean, man, I don't want to date ourselves, but we go back a long way, Susan.
We
I mean,
do.
and
We do, Kevin.
I think
So great to see you again. Yeah.
oh, you too. And we got you and I kind of got reconnected through Lori, and I had interviewed Lori for the podcast, and she was like, Kevin, you should really look at interviewing Susan Berkley for the podcast as well. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, I know Susan. I haven't talked with her in years though, and you and I met years ago through Dan Kennedy. We were both in Dan Kennedy's world when it was just Dan Kennedy, before GKIC, before any of that, and also through Dan Kennedy, I met another guy that you also know, Michael Cage. And in fact, I know when you and I were catching up, I was reminding you of Michael, and I invested in his teleseminar course way back when, and ended up going to the one and only event that he ever hosted in February of 2008. so, and you were at that event as well. And I think it is awesome that you and I got to connect and now reconnect and have this conversation around relationships. And I want to just kind of start off by turning it over to you so that we can set a little bit of context here. And because, Susan, you're a big fat hairy deal. You've been doing what you do in the world for a long time.
Yeah.
Some people, when they're listening to this, they might even be thinking like, I recognize that voice from somewhere. and you probably do. And so,
Yeah.
Susan,
So yeah,
yeah, go
I am
ahead.
I'm the voice that says, "Welcome to City Phone Banking." I'm a professional voiceover artist, founder of the Great Voice Company at greatvoice.com. But that's not all I do, Kevin, because uh, everything we do at the Great Voice Company is around helping people be more confident and charismatic communicators. So, what I've written a couple of books. One of them is Voiceover Secrets Exposed,
Okay.
and voiceover is what I do, and also Speak to Influence, how to unlock the hidden power of your voice. So, right now, and you might not know this, when the pandemic hit, I developed what they call in the marketing world a book funnel. So I wrote a book, my book, Voiceover Secrets Exposed, and we put that online, and we now have over 20,000 customers that have purchased that book and gone on to take our trainings on how to become professional voice actors. Now, our people are interestingly not actors.
Uh-huh.
They are men and women on what we call the runway to retirement.
Okay.
Either recently retired or getting ready to retire and looking for a satisfying, fun money hobby to do from home using their voice.
Wow.
So they come into our world, they read our book, and then we have all kinds of programs for them to take them from where they are to where they need to be to start to make money using their voice from home as a side hustle or a money hobby or an interesting work from home opportunity. And so we help them. We tell them which equipment they need. Of course, you need a home recording studio. We help them get set up and teach them how to use that equipment. And then we do trainings. We make their demos. So I have a wonderful virtual team, all that is based in various points in the country that works with our customers who are nationwide. And we have a whole marketing engine that I have developed to bring them in the door in a wonderful way, and they keep coming back for more. As you know, the name of the game is repeat business. So we've got a wonderful group of people that love our training and stick with us. So that's super
Wow.
cool. So I do that. And then I also work with entrepreneurs and business leaders on their speaking skills.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like the secret weapon. I don't know if you've heard of, I don't know if I should mention their name, but there's a major newsletter, financial newsletter publisher. And I've been on their roster for years, working with all their financial gurus and other the publisher of the company, people working in the organization to help them communicate better, both among themselves and especially on the webinars that they do
Okay.
online. So they are selling very high priced newsletters and seminars,
Mhm.
$5,000 events, and they're investing millions to get people into these events, these trainings that they're doing online, financial trainings. And so there's a lot riding on it. So I work with these financial gurus privately to help them deliver their pitch, their script better in these webinars. And I work with entrepreneurs of all stripes. So you caught me at a great time in our business. I'm developing a whole new program at speakcom.me is a new website that we'll be using at the Great Voice Company to help all kinds of people overcome speaking stress, speaking with more charisma and magnetism in a way that you've never heard before. This training is based on the work of a great psychoanalyst from Brazil that has been a mentor and huge influence in my life. We've been training people in Brazil, where I go frequently to speak business people, to speak English. I'm fluent in Portuguese.
Oh,
And now this is the North American launch of this whole program because it's been so exciting and so useful for people, helping in both their business and their personal relationships.
wow. That is, I did not realize you had so many different arms of the business and stuff.
Yeah.
I knew, and I knew from our last conversation, I knew that you were now, training people who wanted to become voiceover people and stuff. And Susan, when did you start this company?
So I started this company back at, in its tiniest iteration in 1987. So I was
Oh,
on the radio. I worked with Howard Stern. I was a DJ for years, for like 15 years. And, I was the guy, made it to the top. I was Howard Stern's traffic reporter, which meant I was actually a character on his show. But there was no money in radio. And it was, you know, wasn't who I am. I'm really an entrepreneur like you and like probably hopefully a lot of the people that are listening. So I left radio to become a freelance voiceover artist and
okay.
realized that life was very difficult. I did make it, I have some great customers, but I love people. And so I started a coaching and consulting business at that time and started my company. And, before we went live, you said I've been doing this like you for a long period of time. I think that's a great secret. I never wavered. I've just
Yeah,
done one thing. When
yeah,
I founded I founded my company, Great Voice Company, in 1990. We've never strayed from our primary thing,
yeah,
which is to help people use their voice, use their communication skills to be more effective, more charismatic, to feel better about all their communications, maybe make some money doing it as a voiceover artist, maybe make some money doing it as an entrepreneur selling, maybe impact, grow their business, everything around communications.
yeah.
And what we do, Kevin, that's so different is we work with the inner person. We help them get in touch with the what's blocking them.
Okay.
So many people suffer from speech, right? And, mere gestures and quick fixes, it just doesn't solve the problem. So
Mhm.
I have the know-how and the training to help people get really deep and so that they can overcome this once and for all and come out the other end, not even speaking with fear, but with great confidence and
Yeah.
being magnetic without being phony in any way, shape, or form, while still being
Wow.
themselves.
That is awesome. And the fact that you have been doing it so long, it just speaks volumes that, I mean, because I know from my personal experience, the more we just keep doing our thing and the more we just, my goal for a long time is to become as effective as I possibly can at doing what I do and serving the people that I serve. And you've been doing that for years as well. And I would venture to say there's not anybody better than
Oh,
you for doing what you do. Yeah,
well, that's so sweet of you. I thank you so much. I hope that our customers tell us that and
yeah,
they come back again and again, which is wonderful. And of course I've learned how to build a team. So nobody does this alone. I have a
yeah.
wonderful team. That I think has been the biggest learning for me in the because pre-pandemic I had employees at my office, and then when the pandemic came, they fled and many of them moved out of New York. And so I had to learn how to manage a virtual team, which has been a wonderful journey. And I have some incredible people working with me now that are helping us to grow and impact even more people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And kudos to you for just like, being resourceful. Because a lot of people had to do that when COVID hit. A lot of entrepreneurs had to, the big word was pivot. We had to make changes. We had to be resourceful and figure out, okay, how are we going to deal with this new reality now?
Yeah. So for us, the luck for us was that for my business, obviously I was now alone, virtual, right? Where before I was not. And people were no longer coming to live events. But the luck for us being in a voiceover training company is when COVID hit, people were like, oh, wow, now I need to find something to do from home.
Yeah,
And my book sales took off. Our
that is
company
awesome.
grew like crazy. It just blew up. And then I had another issue, which was how to manage growth and how to learn how to maximize, work with AdWords and work with Google and Facebook ads and find great vendors that could help us and have back end products and services. So that's been the joy. And, we met in a marketing venue, Kevin, and we love that kind of stuff. And we studied with the best of the best. Dan Kennedy, I'm sure everybody listening knows who he is, or
Yeah,
hopefully they do.
yeah,
What a
yeah,
wonderful mentor to all of us. So I loved his stuff. I was in his coaching groups, direct mentee to him and Bill Glazer.
yeah.
And you mentioned Michael Cage, I have such a debt of gratitude, a lovely man who's shy, by the way, a very nervous public speaker. And I've talked to him
Yeah.
and worked with him a lot on that. But he, in the age of teleseminars, Kevin, that's how far we go back. I wonder if there were even people on there who don't even know what they were, but we used to do all our marketing before Zoom over the
Yep.
phone.
Yep.
And Michael Cage was the guy, brilliant man who really understood how to sell voice to voice.
Yes.
And I just ate up all his stuff and used it so deeply in my business because he's a deep student of all of that. Really, what's great about direct sales and direct marketing is that there are volumes of books on this. This is not new, it's over 100 years old. And so if you're willing to be a true student, as Michael is and Dan Kennedy is, you can really benefit. And these
Absolutely.
are time-tested principles,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
For influence and ethical persuasion, which
That's
I
right.
love.
Yeah.
I think it's what makes business so much fun.
Absolutely. Well, now that we've got a little bit of context set, I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of our listeners. We're going to switch gears just a little bit here. So, Susan, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today wouldn't be possible if not for this person or persons? And Susan, I'm just really excited to hear your story, your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yes. So that gentleman, his name is Dr. Norberto Kepi.
Okay.
He is a Brazilian psychoanalyst. And let me tell you the story of how I met him and how he changed my life.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was on the radio in New York and getting started, I met and married a Brazilian guy who happened to be a rock star. Guitar player, Sergio Diaz. Most of our listeners won't even know who he is. He's still out there. He's an independent, but he was very successful as a rock musician. We met in New York. I fell madly in love. I eloped to Rio with him. We came back to New York, and he had all kinds of psychological difficulties, panic attacks, and all these things. So I found a Brazilian psychoanalyst for him that was living and working in New York. He started treatment. I made an appointment for myself because this was not a great marriage.
Mhm.
We split up. I stayed. That psychoanalyst was a gentleman named Dr. Norberto R. Kepi. Had
Okay.
just opened a clinic in New York. So Dr. Kepi, and I just stayed with his work for years, Kevin. He is 97 years old, still working, still
Wow.
writing, still doing television shows every week. He has created a body of work that is serious in terms of psychoanalysis. He was trained in Vienna. He was a colleague of Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning and developed his own psychotherapeutic method that incorporates spirituality, philosophy, and the science of psychoanalysis. There
Okay.
is a university based in his work in Brazil with courses online that are being translated into English. There are over 50 books written by Dr. Kepi, many of them translated into English. You can find them on Amazon. His name is spelled Keppe.
Okay.
So this man, because of my close relationship with him, he was my therapist, and I was going through a difficult relationship in my business. He inspired me to start in my marriage, rather. He inspired me to start my business.
Okay.
He changed my life, Kevin. And he said, Susan, teach people what you know. Don't be a slave of big radio. Teach the big media. Teach people what you know. And I did, and I started, and through the years, I maintained a relationship, therapeutic relationship with him, as you could only imagine the ups and the downs, that I've had over the years, as anyone would in business. Um, and if I could, in a nutshell, tell you one of Kepi's gems, and there are many.
Okay. Yeah.
The heart he says the hardest thing for us to accept in life is goodness.
Okay.
And so therefore, what surprised him the most in all the thousands of clients and patients he's seen at his clinics and through his work and all of the analysts he's trained and all the things he's done, what surprised him the most was that his finding that people fundamentally oppose their gifts and their abilities unconsciously.
Oh.
And this is a problem he discovered something in the human being he calls inversion, Kevin. This is
Okay.
a psychological attitude we are not aware of, where we unconsciously deny love, goodness. We think that those things are harmful for us. And so our journey from potential to success is really learning how to deal with those things in ourselves and developing a tolerance for looking at how we are resisting uh, goodness, truth. And it's not always, it's quite challenging because these attitudes are unconscious. So that Kepi's teachings, and I am only skimming the surface, it's deep. There's a whole deep body of work behind it that I'm starting to teach in my area of helping people overcome public speaking and communications anxiety. So yeah, that completely changed my life. Has helped me stay healthy. There have been times I was, over the years, 40 years since I started my business, and I am so grateful I'm in the shape I am now and have the success I have now. I single-handedly, with such gratitude, attribute to the work of this man, because every entrepreneur, every successful person needs to have someone in their back pocket that
Yeah.
helps them with how they sabotage themselves. I don't
Yeah.
care who you are.
Yeah.
And I've had some pretty spectacular acts of self-sabotage in my business. And most of them around not understanding how to hire people, hiring the wrong people, having them blow up the business, things like that. Why did that happen? Why did I do that? I'm not alone in that, Kevin. You know this. We
Totally.
all we are all blind to
Yes.
ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that for me, sure, I was inspired by Dan Kennedy and Michael Cage. Those are marketing techniques. But knowing myself, my inner life as an entrepreneur, and having Dr. Kepi help me and his method, which is now a real method that can be taught and learned, is the single-handedly one thing that help like lead me to success.
Yeah. So I want to make sure I understand. So are you saying that most of us, we cannot accept? I mean, you gave the example of love. We are. It is really difficult for us to accept love from other people. Am I understanding you correctly, Susan? Is that one of the
Yeah.
things that you were talking about?
Well, that's speaking very broadly because it's
Sure.
complicated. So women, we have our own pathology around men. You're happily married. I know you have all these kids. Good for you. God bless you, Kevin. I've been divorced twice and I have a wonderful relationship now that I've had for 20 years because
Okay.
I finally figured out my head, and why, women are complicated creatures and I guess men too. But what the problem is that when Kepi talks about love, it's not just romantic love, Kevin. It's the the love of the creator. Look at this
Yeah.
incredible
Yeah.
universe that was created for us,
Yes.
our very lives.
Yes.
It's everything good, everything truthful. Now, unfortunately, humanity has messed it up pretty badly. We as a whole, what do? We pollute the airs, the planet. We wage wars. Why do we do that? That's Kepi's study of human psychopathology. But he says love and affection is helping others. It's in the Bible. But
Yes.
love others first, more than you love yourself.
Yeah.
As God said in the Bible, any Bible, the Jewish Bible, the Christian Bible, put the other person first. Dedicate yourself to humanity. Help people with your communications. Do for others. We know we should do this. Why do we block this?
Yeah.
That's what Kepi's work helps us see. This problem of inversion, because deep down in an unconscious manner, we somehow feel that by doing so. So take love, even pure old affection in the romantic way. We
Sure.
think, oh, if I love too much, I'm harming myself somehow. I have to love myself first. That's BS, Kevin. No, you have to love humanity, and your work has to be geared toward helping others. But yet we're selfish, we're egocentric because somehow it's beneficial to us.
Yeah.
That's I think so. When Kepi talks about love and affection, he does it on a much broader, universal manner.
Yes.
Um, is this making sense to you?
Totally. Yeah. Totally
Yeah.
make. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're an entrepreneur and you want to succeed, your business has to be geared toward helping other people do something. Otherwise, you'll be an abject failure. It just won't work out in the long run.
Yeah.
You have to have affection, obviously, for your customers, passion for what you do, um, and a sense that you have a gift that wasn't meant for you, but you must be shared.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Yes.
you'll implode.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Must
That
be shared. It wasn't meant
absolutely.
for us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And if more entrepreneurs, especially if they understood that, it kind of changes the dynamic of, why we do what we do. And when we're really, Dan Sullivan has a thing, called, he refers to it as unique ability. And
yeah.
unique ability is this thing that we are really good at, and we can have more than one of them, but it's these God-given gifts that we have that we're just really really good at, and if we just start dialing in on that and just focusing our intention and our attention on that we can just become world class. I mean, Susan, you doing what you do is such a perfect example of this. You've been doing what you do for years, and so you have become world class at doing what you do, and you have a long track record of delivering results for the clients that you've served. I mean, there is no disputing it at this point that Susan Berkley is an expert at doing what she does. And that comes from years of just honing and just really being intentional about becoming as best as you possibly can at using your God-given gifts and unique abilities.
Yeah.
And and you too believing that I have something of value to offer to the right people and stuff. The people who really resonate with you and are in alignment with what you're all about, well, you are incredibly valuable to those people. And so, to not share your message, what a catastrophe that would be to not
Well,
share, you know.
so thank you, Kevin. That's a great word. It is a catastrophe.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's not only it's on many levels. So it's a physical catastrophe for the person who does not give of themselves.
yeah,
And I'm not saying to be like Mother Teresa, that it's serious that we're granted when we're born. Every single person has a talent. Some of us have many, some, but everybody has one, at least one thing
yeah,
that's not of them, but is comes through them and meant for others.
yeah,
And what happens is that when we don't share it, and you don't have to do it on the world stage, you do it in your who's around you, what you can, right? When we don't share it, we fry our neurons and we get sick
yeah,
because it's an energetic thing. So I train people on uh, helping them become not to block their personal magnetism. So nobody can train to be magnetic, be more magnetic and charismatic. You are charismatic and magnetic because you're alive, right? You
yeah,
come from the creator's hands. You're magnetic, you're charismatic, you have that. So that's not the problem. The problem is how do we block it? So it shows up in different people, different ways. Some people are a little more introverted, others are extroverted. It's fine, no worries. The problem is, how are we this is that unconscious part of ourselves, Kevin. So how are we blocking this? And because we see the results, we feel, we, why am I getting physically ill? Why am I feeling unfulfilled? Why are my days so dull? All of the myriad of results that we get in our lives when we're not working, doing what we should be doing. And then you have the person that has a gift and all of a sudden decides they're gonna open a flower shop or a yoga studio when they're meant to be a doctor or a lawyer or
yeah.
anything else. Not that there's anything bad with a yoga studio or a flower shop, but yeah, people then they want to like go veer off in a different direction, not take it seriously, find it dull to do the same thing all the time. All of those types of things. There's a million ways we self-sabotage.
Totally,
So,
totally. Yeah, yeah.
but it's
I
deep.
know.
Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, no, I was saying, I know for me personally, I have been this giving, generous person my entire life. I mean, I love, in fact, I don't know a better feeling than the one that comes from giving of ourselves to somebody else who just genuinely and truly appreciates it. That is just an amazing feeling. And yet, at the same exact time, for most of my life, I pretty much sucked when it came to receiving. And because for whatever reason, especially in my role as an entrepreneur, I wouldn't ask for help because whatever reason I would tell myself that, oh, I don't want to bother them or I don't want to inconvenience somebody. So I'm not going to ask for help or I'm not going to ask for what I want. Or what would they think of me if they knew that I was dealing with this, you know? And so for whatever reasons, for so many years, I was that way. And until 12 years ago, when a good friend of mine provided me with some new insight and some new perspective that changed everything. And he's like, Kevin, he's like, do you realize that by being the way that you are, he said, you love that feeling that comes from giving to others who appreciate it, but yet you are depriving so many other people of having that experience because you don't allow them to give to you. And ever since then, I've just been on this journey of like, well, let me just see how much I can expand my receiving muscle.
Mhm.
And it's been an amazing journey. And when we can receive more, we can ultimately give more too. And
Well, you're right. I mean, because energy is coming and going. All right. So the very nature of the energy that is emanated by the creator to all of us is coming and going. So think about what what is emanated to us, right? Every human being, what we've received to be alive, our gifts, our abilities. Well, like we were saying, we must give that out, but we also have to receive it. And if somebody you're not is intending to help you and give you affection, and you're blocking that, and not you, but anybody blocks that, that's neurotic.
Yeah.
That's a neurotic attitude.
Yeah.
Um, and it should be looked at, because it's just not natural, because the love is intended to flow, give and receive, give and receive, give and receive. But I would say that the problem is much more, I think that in general, people tend to be much more egocentric. Maybe you're unusual. People, because we have here's one of Dr. Kepi's idea. We think that if we give too much, there won't be anything left for us. People
Uh-huh.
typically think that, right? That
Okay.
somehow if they give too much, there'll be nothing left for me. And that can even come down to talents. I better
Uh-huh.
hang on to this gift that I was given. Otherwise, what's left for me?
Uh-huh.
So that's something to be explored as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see that with younger people, newer people. Um, it's hard for them to realize until they put this whole thing into motion, that the more that we give of ourselves, people used to tell me all the time, Susan, you're training other people to get started in voiceover. Aren't you afraid of your competition? I'm like, that is such a crazy question, because obviously the more we give, the more we get, and nobody can ever take away from me what's meant for me, my own particular talents and abilities. But I think that that's the thing that folks really need to think about, Kevin, is their own self-centeredness,
Yes.
you know
Yeah. Yeah.
because it
Absolutely.
seems like it's the way to be, in the media. There's a school out there as we speak for people who want to be influencers. It's a cult of personality. Hey, I'm a marketer. This is capitalism. Okay, cool, do it. But at the end of the day, is that really what the best of what you are and what you have to
Yeah.
offer?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Susan, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation today and to share from your heart. And for anybody that might be listening to this going, man, Kevin, I really like Susan. And there's probably some people listening to this going, man, I I might maybe I should reach out to her. So for anybody who's thinking anything like that, any resources, any websites that we can
I
share with
sure
them?
do. So I am happy to share a free copy of my book, The Persuasion Code, at
Okay,
susanberkley.com. And that is a free download for you. And that's spelled SUSANBERKLEY.com. Go
perfect.
there, download my book. You'll get on my list. Hopefully, it'll be useful for you. And as we develop our new trainings, and we can get to know one another and see what you need. So, Kevin,
Oh,
you're a pleasure to deal with. Thank you so much. What a nice podcast you have
well,
here.
thank you. I will tell you that hosting this podcast has been one of the most rewarding and impactful things I've done in my 28 years and as
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. And I, I, uh, I think we've released 250 some episodes so far, and from where I'm sitting right now, I look forward to doing another 250 plus episodes.
Good.
And
Well,
so,
you look great and healthy, and I'm so happy to be a guest here.
well,
So
thanks
thank you.
again, Susan. Really appreciate you.
My pleasure, Kevin.